Hello, my dear viewers! Welcome to a new episode. As an aftermath of the French Revolution that sparked over three principles, liberty, equality, and fraternity, laws were set to ensure the equality in education. That became mandatory starting the age 6. But when these laws were applied, the French schools were surprised that not all students are same. Wasn't that a little obvious, bro? My friend, please, don't be naive, because this is the episode that you shouldn't be naive in. We're talking about intelligence and stupidity, and how intelligent people can make stupid things. And you're smart, I know you. I meant that school discovered that there are smart students, the high achievers, and medium achievers, and other students that are too low, achieving to keep up. That begs a logical question. Should all these students learn in the same classroom? Or do we take the top students in a separate classroom, and the medium ones in a classroom, and the low achievers in a third one, and the ones who aren't the study? Type play in the field. At that time, there had to be a method to define what is intelligence. And according to that definition, we would classify the students. That's when the first IQ test appeared by the French scientist Alfred Binet. The first IQ test was a bunch of questions in math, inference, and memory. Alfred said that this test was created out of necessity, although he believed that our mental capabilities couldn't be defined by any scales. Looks like you're a smart man. You probably aced your test. But of course, not all people agreed. The American psychologist, Louis Terman, one of the pioneers in the intelligence field. He improved Binet's test and formed the median version. That's the version we use up until now to determine the EK. It's simply to take the child's mental age and divide it by his actual age, then multiply by 100. That would be his IQ. The mental age divided by the age multiplied by 100? He didn't stop there. He worked on another version for adults. One would ask, bro, that was a test for schools. Why make one for adults? Since Terman was a child, he was the smartest in class. But he was educated among less intelligent students, and according to him, these students held him back from improving his skills. That's why he decided to restructure society with intelligence. He started doing that since 1921, when he made one of the most famous psychology retirements. Terman's Study for the Gifted. Terman chose 1,500 of the smartest kids in California schools and traced their life till they grew up to prove that, unlike what Binet said, intelligence isn't just a test score, but a part of destiny that would determine the fate of individuals forever. Man said that with intelligence tests, we would mark 25 of intelligent people in every society and make them the experts in all fields. And among these, we would classify the smartest 5, the smartest of all, and make them leaders and presidents. Terman's social reform didn't stop there. His belief that intelligence is hereditary made him exclude the poor kids. Why are they poor then? They're probably not smart enough to get out of it, and they definitely pass on their not. So, intelligent genes to their kids. So why would I pick their kids? We exclude them. Not just that, he also excluded what he saw as lower races, like the Afros and Latinos. They were all excluded from his experiment. Terman also joined campaigns that demand mandatory sterilization of these categories. Imagine getting a bad score in grade 12. Find yourself sterilized. So, Bohami, my friend sterilized here doesn't mean clean it. It means that your gene's journey is over after you. Game over. After you. Game over. One would say, this Terman guy had probably applied this on everyone but himself. Naive. Applied it in his household. He did. He applied it on his family. He put his family under IQ tests. He placed each one of them on the dining table according to their results. His grandchild Doris says that his smartest son Fred sat at the head of the table, while Doris and her mother Helen sat next to the maids, because they were the least intelligent. Imagine if that happened in Egypt? The smartest one takes the chicken breasts and thighs, but the stupid loser sits far away with the pickles. I'll be the one that just drinks tea. And like the movie Minority Report, that shows a scary future. A future where we condemn people through some tests before they even commit the crime. Similarly, Terman made IQ tests that predict criminal acts before they happen. Are you sure this guy had a high IQ? Well, Thank God, bro! This guy's long gone. And as Taylor Swift once said, let's shake it off. But let me tell you that with Terman's experiment, we didn't shake it off, because it's the base of all current IQ tests in schools and jobs. Like the SAT tests for college admissions in America. If we look at countries like India, Korea, Taiwan, we'll find preparatory schools that are worth more than $6.4 billion. They all prepare students on the skills of Terman's test. Imagine, the guy who sorted the dinner table like traffic is the guy who controls us now. He controls our test to this day. The intelligence researcher James Flynn noticed that intelligence rate increased 30 points in the last 80 years, right? Let's go humanity! Let's go humanity! That's it, study and prepare for your finals. And show us the good stuff. Of course, my friend, this doesn't make any sense. Even psychologists who believed, like Terman, that intelligence is inheritable, find it illogical. It's impossible for humans to create a 30-point spike in IQ all of a sudden, because genes could never produce a spike like that in just 80 years. That's a spike with extra toppings. Flynn explained that it's not because our intelligence increased or anything. It's because schools starting from elementary stage started focusing on skills like calculating, deducing, and finding patterns. What does finding patterns remind you of? Test skills! Our IQ test points increase, my friend, because we spent our whole lives training on IQ tests. Education started focusing on quick calculation and deduction, meaning we're not smarter. Our educational system just prepared us more for solving IQ tests that we'll face when we get older. Or, according to Flynn's quote, our brains were formed according to Terman's tests. Really, bro? So, it's like we made some coffee, studied the IQ tests, and we didn't biologically become smart. Yes, I'm dying to know what accent was. I'm dying to know what accent was. I'm trying to make. It's not rural, or southern, or northern, or even Swahili. It's my accent. Here, we come to the important question. Are deduction thinking and calculation skills that we rate in these IQ tests while applying for a job enough to identify smart people, or enough to be a base for an entire educational system? A hot question that needs a break, but I won't stop to protect the episode's flow and rhythm, see? Bro knows about rhythm. My dear, beautiful viewer, let me tell you two stories. The first story happened in 1917. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the author of Sherlock Holmes, the famous detective character that was seen by intelligence researchers as the representation of Terman's skills. That guy wrote Holmes, my friend. Oh! The detective, not the burger. So all those Sherlock adventures were written by this guy. Sir Arthur was introduced to two students, 16-year-old Elsie and 9-year-old Francis, and the girls showed him pictures of magical fairies that they took at the lake. Sir Arthur, that smart man, will not only believe the two girls, but he also, in his book, Coming of Fairies, will justify the existence of these fairies using scientific evidence, like electromagnetic energy that made these fairies invisible for humans. And in 1985, which is 68 years after that incident, the girl Frances, who was 9 years old, confessed that she had a bet with her friend to cut out some cartoon pictures from a kid's book and take pictures with it as a prank. However, they were surprised to see researchers and story writers, known for writing extremely intelligent characters like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote Sherlock Holmes, who had Detective Conan named after him, not only believed them, but wrote more than 20 books about spirits and fairies. Can you imagine? Two teenagers tricked Sherlock Holmes. All he does is analyze crimes, and how the killer is right-handed because the victim's injured head in his left hand. And if the wound is from up to bottom, then the killer is tall. And if the victim has a liverbird tattoo, then they're fan of liverbird tattoo, then they're fan of Liverpool. You impress the world with your intelligence, but if two girls say mermaids are real, you say I want one. Why? That's embarrassing. I guess it's easier anyway to judge people back in the day. I feel like future me would look back at certain things and go, how did I ever think that certain things and go? How did I ever think that? Do you know, my friend, that I thought pasta is planted? Seriously, I thought that. And that the news guy can see me as well, and that black and white movies are actually black and white. Because life was black and white back then. Wait! Now I know why they put me in the basement during dinner. The second story happened in the 19th century's 80s, when Thomas Edison created a way to deliver electricity to all American homes through a continuous flow of direct current. However, his opponent, George Westinghouse, will think about using alternating current. And to not get confused, I'll tell you that direct current is a one-directional flow with a single magnitude. However, the other type is, just like you, alternating. The alternating current switches between two directions. That is an advantage where it doesn't lose its energy, no matter how long it travels. That was the advantage needed by a project that spreads electricity to American homes, unlike Edison's direct current. However, Edison refused entirely to stop his work, despite an advice given to him by his assistant at the time. Who was his assistant at the time? Who was his assistant? Bro! A random guy who has a car brand named after him. His assistant was Nikola Tesla, who started his research on alternating current, and if he had continued doing his research, he could have outdone Edison's opponent, Westinghouse. However, Edison didn't just refuse to listen to Tesla, but he also stopped funding his research, and he made brutal propaganda shows where he brought dogs, horses, and elephants to tase them with electricity. Oh God! Just to prove that alternating current is unsafe. He also forced American courts to use alternating current in execution by the electric chair in order to link between this type of current and death in people's minds. Look, anyone who uses the alternating current is killing animals. Look, the government is using it to execute people. So people would think, please, keep the alternating current away. Edison completely destroyed the reputation of the alternating current. And it'll be many years before he confesses his defeat to the alternating current, which is better and more efficient. And it's the one we keep using till this day. If you look at these two stories that I told you, you'll find two figures. The first one has all the skills to Terman's test, like Arthur Conan Doyle, and the second is Thomas Edison. They not only made wrong decisions, but also, according to the scientist Ray Hyman, Arthur Doyle used his books and scientific facts like electromagnetism to prove the myth of fairies. That means, my friend, that Arthur Conan Doyle didn't use his intelligence to find the truth. However, he used his intelligence to convince people by using science and smart words with what he thinks is the truth. Meanwhile, needless to say, it's just a myth. And it's more dangerous that thousands believed it. Here, the intelligence of these geniuses was not enough for them to see the truth. And it also made them use their abilities in their scientific and social positions to promote myths and mistakes, just like how Edison promoted against the alternating current. Is that how we treat anyone who alternates? The explanation to all this is a thing called cognitive bias. What? Cognitive bias in his book, Thinking, Fast and Slow. The scientist Daniel Kahneman, who was awarded a Nobel Prize for his work in psychology and behavioral economics, said that in order for the brain to make decisions, it uses two systems. We've talked about them before. One fast, instinctive system, and another slow, logical system that analyzes things. The problem, according to Daniel, is that the fast system is great, excellent, and saves us in difficult situations, but it's also prone to many cognitive biases. For example, in the Arthur Conan Doyle story, there was motivated reasoning. In this type of bias, one will use his intelligence to prove what his own emotional desires want. According to sources, Arthur was strongly attached to his wife, Jean. Jean claimed to have spiritual abilities. And also, Arthur had a big fear of death, my friend, which made him state, in his final days, that his belief in spirits and fairies protected him from that fear. Arthur, my friend, used his intelligence to prove a myth that protects the two most important things in his life, his wife and his fear of death. Meanwhile, Edison's bias is called a sunk cost fallacy, where we refuse to give up a failing matter. For example, if you've been in a relationship for 8 or 10 years, and it's a toxic relationship that isn't fulfilling in any way, not even emotionally, and you know that the other party is using you, and they even say, I'm using you, and everyone says they're using you. Anyone says they're using you! That you'll feel bad about those 10 years that were all for nothing. Please, leave! Find salvation. It's okay. Save yourself. Here, we refuse to give up a failing matter because we've came such a long way. That's That's what Addison did when he refused Tesla's advice to give up the idea of direct current. Someone might ask, how did we ever consider these people to be smart? I recall, my friend, a nice quote from Michael Shermer saying, "That means smart people sometimes believe very weird things because they are skilled at defending beliefs that they arrived at for non-smart reasons." Here, we desire something first, then the smart person goes, "How can I reach that thing?" We're supposed to think in smart ways to reach something we desire first, and then use our intelligence to reach it. But emotions and desires are often fast. The scientist Keith Stanovich, my friend, did experiments where he brought test subjects who have high IQ or SAT scores. When he subjected them to cognitive biases, he found that the relation between intelligence and being biased is limited and doesn't exceed 0.1, in fact. According to this study, the more intelligent the test subject is, the more he falls into the cognitive bias trap. Wow, bro! Stupidity is a blessing then. My friend, only a person with no biases at all would say that. Hopefully, you understand? And that's because smart people's sense of intelligence gives them confidence. It makes them believe that they can never be wrong. The result is that they make more mistakes. For example, according to studies, smart people are more prone to financial risks and going broke because they overestimate their abilities to deal with the future in a smart way. In his book, IntelligenceChapter, Why Smart People Make Dumb Mistakes, Robson differentiates between rationality and Terman's definition of intelligence, the IQ tests, and says that rationality is our ability to make decisions by logic and determine the suitable path, while intelligence is a set of skills that help us do that. This means that rationality or wisdom is the driver that drives the car. While intelligence is the powerful engine inside of it, you can have the strongest engine, but can't drive. Robson says that it's not just that intelligence isn't enough, but it can even turn into a trap where make wrong choices and logicalize that choice we made. And if we were gifted with influence on people, we can drag everyone in our mess, like Conan and Addison. And as I may do, my friend, I also have influence. And I definitely have big mistakes. They didn't just fell into biases resulted from the fast brain system, but also used their slow brain system, the analytical one, in supporting their biases. According to the psychologist Igor Grossman, intelligence explains 5 of the diversity between humans. The differences between humans are explained by 5 only in terms of intelligence. That's when the logical thinking, which I think we should care about, needs other skills. Lots of Terman's experiments, kids. Termites grew into geniuses. But let's not forget the question about the fate of the other kids. The ones excluded by the other kids' standards. The ones excluded by the IQ test standards. The scientists, Charles Lord says knowing about biases isn't enough to avoid them. But we need to turn this knowledge into skills and education, which was a mission to be carried out by people outside the educational system set by Terman, or maybe some of the victims Terman excluded from his tests. I'll get a victim and be back. The scientist Robert Sternberg classified No. 60 among the top psychologists of the 20th century. Surpassing who, my friend? Terman himself, by 12 ranks. This scientist that said as a child when he took Terman's IQ test, he froze out of anxiety, which in turn left him with low scores that placed him in the stupid student zone forever. He believed he wasn't gonna finish his education, if not for one teacher who believed in him and told him that an test score wouldn't determine his future. Sternberg said that this sentence didn't just make him an excellent student, it also made him dedicate his years of work for intelligence research. Because if he was lucky enough to have a supporting teacher, thousands of other students due to Terman's standards would have believed they're stupid. Due to believe they're stupid, it may have been that. It's fine. Sternberg established the triarchic theory of intelligence. Bear in mind, my friend, that here he has a specific goal where he uses his intelligence to prove it, because there are many intelligence theories, but we're talking about them to be in the loop about everything. Maybe there's intelligence. This triarchic theory says that there's analytical intelligence, which depends on smartness, inference, and memory, like Terman's test. But there are two other intelligence types that aren't measured by IQ, practical and creative intelligences. Let me tell you two tales. Other than the first ones. In 2011, Paul Frampton met online a beautiful model called Denise Mulatly. I don't know a lot about beauty standards, but I think she's beautiful. After a year of chatting with her, she invited him to visit her in Bolivia, and the nice Mr. Paul flew all the way to meet his model girlfriend, despite his friend's warnings that it's a suspicious relationship. Something that went along with, my name is Regina Falange, Rhode Island, 25 years old, and you, Allie. When he reached Bolivia, he got a text message from her where she said she had to travel but forgot her bag and asked him to take her bag and follow her up in Argentina. That's where they would meet and spark their love story. Paul, in a blinded ambition, took her bag, and as he was traveling, he was stopped in the airport and arrested for smuggling took of cocaine. That's when Paul realized the truth he never saw for a year. She was an addict, bro. That she's non-existent, my friend. Paul was surprised that he was victim of fraud by people who catfished him as a model and messaged him taking advantage of his nativity to smuggle their cocaine. The problem is that Paul Frampton, that clown that I just told you his story, is one of the most famous physicists working on the dark matter worldwide. And even his brilliance didn't get him to doubt for a moment, to the point that when he was in prison, he tried to contact the real model because he already fell in love with her. Then, Sternberg says that practical intelligence is the reality's intelligence of problem solving and judging the strength and weakness points of humans. An intelligence sprung out of experience, not Terman's calculations. Not Terman's calculations! A pure intelligence. What was the intelligence that Paul lacked and made an important scientist like him a joke in front of the world? Sternberg says that creative intelligence is a what-if intelligence, where one deals with reality in a different way, like changing up historical questions a little bit, with what if Hitler had won the war? To set aside the world's timeline as they know it, and think differently, Sternberg tried to integrate both practical and creative intelligence that don't exist in the IQ intelligence, that don't exist in the IQ tests, into a study on more than 7,700 students. He found that the students who trained on the intelligence types had higher scores. You might ask me and say, what if, bro? There was a team of geniuses, Avengers. What about group intelligence? Well, the people who are hosted by Mr. S.M. Youssef, where? At least if one made a mistake, another will save it. Let me tell you the last tale in this episode. I'm tired, bro. I'm just as tired as you, my friend, but I have to finish the syllabus. Or do I say that the episode is over and we go home? No, not my thing. I don't take absences in my episodes. I'll start to, though. In the UEFA Nations League in 2016, Iceland presents its surprise by booking its seat in the Euro, beating Netherlands. What's the issue, bro? What difference would it make? Let it pass for me. The issue, my friend, is that Iceland was a volcanic island. And as its name suggests, it's covered by snow all year. That's why it has the shortest football season in the world, because the field's grass freezes, and in the world, because the field's grass freezes. And its population is 330,000. That's like the smallest outing in Zamalek. Here, 500,000 people go out to skate. This population is hard to find good players among it, or any players at all. To the point where one of their coaches was a dentist. Guys, no one pulls out of the penalty area. A dentist coach. We need to fill them with goals. I hope you understood the molar of my point. What the surprise is that Iceland didn't just qualify. It tied in its first match with Portugal to an extent that pisses off the Cristiano Ronaldo, who would say about them that they're a lucky team who just defended. But Iceland proved it wasn't just luck because it beat Austria then England, in what The Guardian described as the most humiliating loss in the English history. Despite Iceland being disqualified by France, the home team, its performance remained a football mystery. The psychologist, Adam Galinsky, the Ukrainian bro, during his study for sports teams, he found that the more stars there are in a team, the less cooperation this team has, and they lose. And that the safe percentage of stars in any team is the third. By the way, if you watch the old Benzema episode, you'll find that it's what we used to say, but who listened? Everyone took what I said on behalf of the Real Madrid fans and said, Bro says, it makes fun of Benzema. And look what he said when look what he said when Benzema took the Ballon d'Or. I still remember. I don't forget. While England has 21 players during the tournament who played for the most profitable clubs in the world, Iceland only had one. But it had a space of cooperation and harmony between all team members. This space amazed experts. When Galinski's theory was applied to the tournament, they found it. Explains Iceland's performance and Portugal's too, who won the Euro 2016 in the final. Its stars were only 4 in the most profitable clubs. Among them was Cristiano Ronaldo, which was less than the limit that Galinski set. According to studies, the process of getting geniuses into one team doesn't create a dream team, but rather creates problems around competition and status. That's why the correlation between IQ and groups performances didn't surpass a 3's correlation. The team you were victorious with in winning? 11 Japan World Cup game. Ronaldo here. Mboma there. Batistuta striking. Carlos playing forward for no reason because his speed was 9. If that team played in real life, it would be weak. And why think too much of it? We saw Real Madrid and the Galacticos. According to the evolutionary psychology, the human intelligence didn't evolve to get us to reach the truth. It evolved for the brain to deal with complex communities because we now live in bigger groups, and our safety sometimes depend on our relationship with the ones around us and with existence of languages. We started to convince the ones around us to cooperate or else we'll die. That's why we could be smart in Terman's terms and the fastest in maths, inference, and memory. But our thinking is filled with cognitive biases, like the stories of Addison and Arthur Doyle, because we don't only use our intelligence to reach the truth, we also use to prove what we want and wish for, or even what we might think is truth. In the end of his book, The Intelligence Trap, David Robson says that a tool like intelligence can be affected by our biases, and it's not just a benchmark for acceptance in universities and jobs. It was given a definition for only a part of its abilities. While man was born complex and in need of analysis intelligence for data, and practical intelligence to deal with reality, and creative intelligence to deal with variables, and social intelligence to help him work in groups, and most importantly, curiosity and a growing mind that make us not give up on any challenge and keep going. This was all reduced into an IQ score. Perhaps that score shows some of our abilities. But like Binet said, the first inventor of intelligence tests, that our mental capabilities couldn't be defined by any scales. The research James Flynn said that although humanity's EQ increased 30 points in the last 80 years, we didn't become a perfect world like Terman wished. We still have lots of challenges. We suffer from wars and problems. Flynn wonders, what if the intelligence research about curiosity? What if the intelligence research about curiosity? Sternberg's theory, or cognitive biases, were the base of intelligence tests early in the century instead of Terman's. Maybe the world would have been less intelligent in Terman's standards, but maybe the world would have been a lot wiser. At the end, this episode doesn't criticize intelligence, but it lets us know that there's a world filled with talents and a world filled with capabilities that can make us happy and successful people. And in my opinion, what we need to care for as humanity isn't intelligence, but curiosity. We need to be curious. One might tell me, I sense you have something in between lines, bro, and a hidden purpose. You're right, my friend. I do have a purpose. And I'm telling you, I want your curiosity to get you to watch the old episodes and the new ones. Look at the sources and subscribe if you're on YouTube. You know, my friend, what did people tell Addison when he visits them? What? Whoa. You look all lit up. You know, when Addison visits Tesla, what does he tell him? You're a light upon us.